Welcome back, everybody, and today we're going to be talking about tuples and dictionaries, which are other kinds of data structures that are similar to lists. Just to recap, if you don't know what a data structure is, it's basically a way of ordering your data so that you can easily access and manipulate it using your code. And now let's get started by talking about how to create a tuple first. Alright, so to make a tuple, the first thing you have to do is just like a list, you have to name it. And then you have to give it some values. So instead of square brackets like a list, you would use parentheses. And then you would do everything the same as a list. You would give it some values, so let's say apple, and then banana, and cherry. So now that I've created the tuple, let's print it out. So just like in a list, I would just say print out fruit, and it'll just print out everything that I've written. So let's try to print out a single value. So just we do index of 1 with the square brackets, and remember that apple is the first value, so it would actually be the 0th index. So when I say print out index of 1, I'm really talking about the second value, which is banana. So when I print it out, I got banana. And now with a list, you can change the values, but in a tuple, it's secure. You can't, after you've created the tuple, you can't change anything. So let me try to change something, and I'll show you what happens. So when I say fruit of 1 is, let's say, equal to kiwi. So what this is going to do is it's going to change fruit 1, which is banana, and it's going to change it to kiwi. If this was a list, but it's a tuple. So as you can see, Python is screaming at me that tuples don't support item assignment, which means that you can't assign a different value to it. And when I run it, it gives me an error because I'm not able to change anything. This will also happen if you try to delete or add a new thing. It's not only if you're trying to change a value. So even if I'd said that like this would be index of 3, which would actually make a new one, even if I said this, it still doesn't support, it'll say the exact same thing. So that's pretty much everything for tuples. It's basically just a secure way of creating a list. But usually we don't use tuples, we usually use lists in Python because usually we want to change them. But if you're doing some kind of secure thing that you know that the values should never change, you would usually go for a tuple. Now let's talk about how to make a dictionary. So for a dictionary, what you do is you actually use curly braces. And a dictionary is a little bit different than lists and tuples because instead of just writing down the values, you actually have to put the key value pairs. And what this means is just like how when you're using a dictionary in real life, you have the word and then you have the definition. So just like that, you have a key which you use to find the value. So let's say A, and then let's say A for apple. So here, the key is A, and then the value is apple. What's happening here is that this apple is being stored as a value in the computer's memory, and to get that apple, we have to put in this key A, and it has to be in the context of the dictionary. So now let's also do B for banana and C for cherry. So now that we have that, let's just print out this dictionary. And it's going to give us all the keys and all the values. Now here, if I wanted to get a singular value, I would just say something like index, but instead of using index, I would actually just give the key. So let's say B, and it'll give me banana. Let's see what happens if I use a key that I haven't specified. So like fruit D. And let's run this. So it's obviously going to give me an error because I haven't specified D yet. But there's one thing I can do. I can say fruit.get, and let's use a key that I've already specified, and let's say B, and it's going to give me banana. It does the same thing. But if I use a key that doesn't exist, like D for example, it's going to give me none instead of an error. And another thing you can do with this .get is I can put a comma here, and I can say this key does not exist. And what happens is it checks to see if this exists, and if it doesn't, then it plays the message that I said here. So for example, if I put B, it's not going to play this message, it's just going to give me banana. But if I put D, it'll say this key does not exist, which is very useful. Okay, let's try out some things that you can do with dictionaries. So the first one is to change and add key value pairs to your dictionary. So to do this, you just say fruit and you put a square bracket and you just type in the key that you want to add or you want to replace. So if I put B here, what's going to happen is whatever I put in these quotation marks will replace this. Because in Python or in any other language, when you have a dictionary, it's not going to let you have two different values with the same key. So if I change this to berry, then, and I just print out the whole dictionary, it should give me apple, berry, and cherry. Yes. Okay, now if I wanted to make a new one, let's say K and kiwi, I should have apple, banana, cherry, and kiwi because I changed B back to banana. Okay, so that happened, and now let's try removing some values. So this is just like a list. I would say .pop, and I would insert the key here. So let's just take out C. So I'll have apple and banana. Okay, great. So now the last thing I want to talk about is .clear. And just like in a list, what .clear does is it just deletes the whole dictionary. So let's try it. And it worked. That's pretty much it for this video, and in the next video we're going to finally start talking about functions. So I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!